I'll leave it up to you to decide. I'm suspicious. I think there's more to it, and I believe we're going to find out eventually.
In today's video, Attorney John Deaton discussed the latest with the SEC Ripple XRP lawsuit, the recent summary judgments from Ripple and the SEC, and what's next for the procedural process, likelihood of a settlement soon.
What I want to point out, though, is that everyone's catching up to XRP holders now. We've been starting and fighting from January 1st of 2021, arguing that secondary market sales are in jeopardy here. We've been arguing this from day one, and the SEC now, the Coinbase, I should say, is saying we're just a secondary markets asset seller. And crazy in the SEC's response, I guess not crazy, but they cite the library decision. And they cite the library decision saying that the judge, Barbadaro, did not distinguish in his opinion between direct sales and secondary market sales. And what are we waiting for right now? We're waiting for the judge and library to write that second opinion in order as it relates to the penalties phase. And that's when Naomi Brockwell, who deserves a lot of credit, allowed me on her behalf to go into court and argue to the judge, listen, at least clarify, please, judge, clarify that your order does not implicate secondary market sales. You don't have to say that no secondary market sales are never securities. Just make it clear that your order does not apply to that and you never intended it to apply to secondary market sales. And the judge promised to do that. Now, we haven't seen it in writing, but I point that out to you because a lot of people were saying, why are you going there? It's the penalty phase. The summary judgment was already decided. And remember, I said every single court battle matters. And now we see this as evidenced by the SEC making a big deal out of that library decision where it was not distinguished. And that's why we have to go in and fight, which brings me to the point about, why get involved in amicus for Coinbase? And I have to be honest with everyone out there. Tribalism is exhausting. It really is absolutely frustrating and exhausting. I just want you to remember, when I first filed the writ of mandamus and got involved in the Ripple case, all the people that dislike Ripple said, why are you helping Ripple? This is ridiculous. Ripple dumped on XRP holders. There's XRP holders who feel that way. Why are you helping Ripple, John? And I kept saying, it's not about Ripple. I don't give a shit about Ripple. Okay, this is about secondary market sales. This is about property rights. This is about freedom. This is about being able to have your own asset. This is about stopping government overreach. That's what it's about. I don't care about Ripple. And a lot of the XRP holders, they agreed with that, and they would say the same thing. But now, because Coinbase delisted XRP and they haven't relisted XRP, I have people saying to me, why would you help Coinbase? I don't care about Coinbase. It is about the secondary market sale, and we have to distinguish those things. And so I'm not telling you to join if you don't want to join. I'm just saying, if you are a Coinbase customer and you don't want Coinbase to speak to you for you, and you certainly don't want the SEC to speak for you, then that's why you join, to have your own voice heard. And thank God that Naomi Brockwell agreed with that, because we wouldn't have even a fighting chance if she didn't. And that's why I encourage you all to get involved. So anyways, now the last thing to talk about is sort of what's been going on in the last 2 weeks since our last live stream. Is there's a company in crypto that came out of nowhere and completely unknown to most of us who've been involved in crypto for at least the last 5-6 years, and that is Promethean. In fact, it's not just me. and others. But I think we have a quote from Charles Hodgkinson from Cardano, right? Who is an Ethereum co-founder. And look what he said. Who the hell are these guys? And, I think that was a sincere tweet by Charles. And how did these guys end up being a witness for the Democrats? And that's the thing to know about these hearings. These hearings, right? Whoever is in the majority gets to dictate the hearing. They set the agenda. And then each side gets their witnesses. And the Democrats, chose Promethean. I just say, hey, just get right people. Like I've encouraged Mark Cuban to be called as a witness. No one's asking for individual holders to be represented, right? We get the traditional people that, however they get picked. But this company called Promethean and its co-founder, Aaron Kaplan, got chosen. And what we learned was that this fella named Aaron Kaplan, he basically called Coinbase, what was the word? Coinbase and Kraken, scofflaws, companies that won't comply come in and register. And when you listen to him testify, it was as if Gary Gensler had a substitute surrogate to go in there and testify on his behalf, because this gentleman for Promethean said that there was no lack of regulatory clarity. He interestingly flipped. In 2021, he had a letter that said, we need new laws. We need Congress to do its job and enact laws. He talked about the lack of regulatory clarity, everything everyone else in crypto was saying, except now he flipped from 2021 to in 2023 to testify. And he testified that there is a path to compliance that has been laid out by the SEC. He said basically when Gary Gensler gets up there and says, come on in and register. Well, that's what we did. That's what Promethean did. We went in, took Gary under his advice, walked in and we registered. And all these other companies, that are crying for new legislation, they're the bad actors. They don't want to comply. He said, basically, there is no need for Warren Davidson or Tom Emmer or Patrick McHenry to be spending late hours writing up legislation. We don't need that. It is crystal clear. He basically called the Paul Graywells and the Brian Armstrongs and the Jesse Powells of the world the bad guys, right? Who don't want to come in and register. He said non-compliance is a choice. And right after that, Gary Gensler gets on TV. Is it a coincidence? And Gary Gensler says, we're making progress. Just a couple weeks ago, we had a company come in and register. And he used Promethean as an example of how to register because of this narrative that he's pushing. All right. So is it a coincidence that these fellas show up as a Democrat witnesses who flip-flop from what they said before, or is this politics involved in creating a narrative? And I was trying to figure out this Promethean business model. And then I came across, so I wish I could give credit to whoever it was on Twitter. And I apologize that I don't. I would if I could remember who it was. And I came across a picture that embodied the Promethean business model. And here it is. That's it. A vending machine, sort of an analogy to their business, but there's nothing in it. There's nothing you can sell. And just like this empty vending machine, they can't tell you what they're can sell. They can't even sell Bitcoin and Ethereum, which represents 70 to 75% of the market. They can't even do that. It's just an empty business. And they can't tell you what tokens in the future they're going to sell. And their only answer is, well, we want to crawl before we walk. Okay, so what we know what's going on is politics, but the XRP army launched into action. Eleanor Terrett got involved, and the Blockchain Association got involved. And so on June 13th, the CEO, Aaron Kaplan, testified. And then on June 15th, Marissa Koppel filed FOIA requests seeking records related to Promethean. Everyone should go see Laura Shen's podcast where Aaron Kaplan is on with Rodrigo. Unchained podcast. I watched that. It's very entertaining. July 10th, Senator Tuberville and Reps Blaine, Press, Norman, and Alfred sent a letter to the SEC and the DOJ asserting that Aaron Kaplan provided false testimony at the June 13th hearing. Okay, and so I'll leave it up to you to decide whether or not this is politics and we are involved in someone who was just lucky and they've been involved and we just didn't know about them and they got the call to come in and register, or all of a sudden they get a registration and can be held up and out as look, here's a company that did it, no problem. Shame on Coinbase, shame on everybody else in the industry. I'll leave it up to you to decide. I'm suspicious. I think there's more to it, and I believe we're going to find out eventually.